So you touched on real estate. If you hear about my story, I know that real estate is my zone of genius, which is another great book by Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. So I know real estate is like my zone of genius. Everything that I do is in real estate. So what initially drew you to real estate? Was it reading that book? And what strategies have you found to be the most effective for your real estate investing journey?
Yeah. So for real estate, for me, so when I read that book, that was the first time that it had ever even been presented to me. And also, just to add on to what you were saying, is that I think that is very fascinating to see that a lot of the people that are making the transition have felt this sort of like intense weighing upon them. It's almost like the cards are stacked against us, and the Lord is inspiring this mindset that, hey, I'm going to pursue this despite what, was done to me. Like, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to thrive and have success. I'm going to fight. And I think and that's something that I think is very, like I said, fascinating. It's very inspiring to me. I see it in a lot of immigrants. Like you mentioned that a lot of people coming over here, like, hey, they just make the journey from one nation to another. That is huge. And then, so that shows the faith that they have. And which is one of the things that I like to say is that, like, I believe there's a lot of fallacies that are taught in our society and our culture. One of the biggest ones is that it takes money to make money. I don't like to believe that because, for example, I think all three of us here are multimillionaires now. We've had a lot of success and none of us came from money. Yeah. So one of the biggest lies is that it takes money to make money because none of us came from money. And a matter of fact, roughly 90% of millionaires are first generation.
First generation, yeah.
So I believe that it doesn't take money to make money. I believe it takes faith to make money. Yeah. And James tells us that faith without works is dead. So show me your works and I will show you your faith. So I believe that somebody that comes from a background where we have been burned, like I didn't have my father in my life. I was not taught a formula of success, didn't come from money, lived probably paycheck to paycheck with less than $500 in the bank account at a time. Wow. You're saying that you came from that background as well, had the lights cut off. Yeah. But look at what God has done. And so I think he takes the test and turns it into a testimony. All those things. For real estate, when I read that book, I began to realize, okay, there's a new path. I come from this background where I didn't have these things, but I can have it. And so when I read that book, I started doing just like everybody else. I started watching all the shows. Tariq El Moussa, Flip and Flop was my favorite. I was like, okay, I can do this. And what really helped me was that first house. So that first house, when I was reading that book, I had no money. We bought it. It was a foreclosure house, 2011. By the grace of God, we got into this house. There was holes in the walls. There was tar in there on the floor and the carpet because the people that left very upset. They foreclosed, so they threw tar on the carpets, punched holes in the walls. But I was like, let's just get a house. I just knew I needed to get a house for my wife. Like, we had been through a hard time. Let me do this thing. So we got the house. I had some brothers from the church, do it for the goodness of their heart. They charged me like nothing. Yeah. We got new carpet, the cheapest carpet we could find. We got new carpet. We patched the walls and all these things. But I did not have a dishwasher. And so I went on to Craigslist and I was looking for a dishwasher. And I saw this guy down the street was upgraded his appliances. And he said, dishwasher and stove, stainless steel, $150.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, cool. So I went and I got the dishwasher and the stove, gave him $150, but I only needed the dishwasher. So I put the stove back on Craigslist. And when I looked, I was like, dude, stoves are going for $150. So I listed the stove for $150. Somebody came and was like, I'll give you $125. So I sold it. And then it clicked dude, I just got a dishwasher for $25.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if I did this and I didn't even need either of them? So then I started turning it into a Craigslist flipper and I started flipping stoves, dishwashers, sofas. I actually found an auction online in Sacramento where they were selling rejected furniture from Ashley Furniture. It was the wrong color. There was little minor flaws or just it didn't get delivered. And I was buying this stuff at dirt cheap. I was buying sectionals and sofas like a madman for $100, $200. I lined them up in my garage,
I was going to say, where'd you put them?
I filled up the garage, and some of them were the exact same sofas too. So I would take one picture, sell it, and I had multiple people on the same post. So anyways, I got the concept of flipping from flipping random furniture on Craigslist.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I started with that stuff. And then when I had the epiphany that real estate is where a lot of people make their wealth, I was like, I know I can do it, because I believe that if I can flip a sofa and make $200 or $300, I can flip a house and I can make X amount of dollars. So for me, that's really where it started. And flipping became my initial kickoff point. But I didn't have a lot of wisdom. I didn't have education. And looking back, dude, the first thing that you should do, like if you want to get into something, is get a mentor, educate yourself. I had so many mistakes that I made because I didn't do that. And what I really wasted, you tapped on it, was I wasted time. You know, what is more valuable, time or money? I should have immediately got a mentor, got a community, and invested that money so that way I could have gotten my time back. But I didn't do that. I just went ahead and I saved up the best I knew how, flipping all this stuff, till I had about, like, I think over the course of 2 years, 3 years maybe, I'd saved like $70,000, and I bought my first condo at the auction. And flipping has been my primary strategy. And then after a while, you're like, okay, let me get cash flow. So then I started getting rental properties like in Ohio. I got some flips in Missouri and Texas. And so I started dabbling in other markets. But that was my first initial thing, was house flipping.
Yeah, those are high cash flow states, along with PA. I got a good friend and former pastor. He invests in Pittsburgh. Like, you're not going to get equity play, but the cash flow is where it's at. So that's awesome.